morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Ibadan. It's a bright and promising Monday, the 7th of July, 2025, and you are tuned in to Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, Ibadan. I am Samson Balogun.
And I'm Oluwayemi Adelako. A beautiful start to the new week, and we're absolutely delighted to have you with us. Whether you're just rolling out of bed or already slipping that first cup of coffee, we've got you covered with everything you need to start your day right.
All right, let's begin with a quick check on the weather for Ibadan and its surrounding areas. This morning, expect partly cloudy skies with early morning humidity giving way to high of around 30 degrees Celsius. There's a slight chance of scattered showers later in the afternoon. So if you've got plans to step out, maybe you should keep an umbrella handy.
And you know what they say about the skies may be moody, but the city stays buzzing. Now, as the nation settles into a brand new week, let's ease you into today's conversations. There's a lot happening both here in Nigeria and globally, and we'll be guiding you through the top stories, headlines, and discussions that matter.
All right, starting with our top news picks this morning. The buzz around Constitution review continues to gather momentum across the country. Public hearings are in full swing in all 6 geopolitical zones. The push for constitutional change is heating up, and more voices are demanding clarity, inclusion, and action here.
Absolutely, and it's more than just talk. Nigerians say we want a constitution that reflects the people's reality, not just a political document. This ties directly into our big story this morning: constitutional dialogues bridging the gap between government and the people.
Joining us shortly to unpack this will be Oba Adeoye, a seasoned public affairs analyst all the way from Lagos State, who will be helping us understand not just the legal implications but also the real human cost of disconnect between policymakers and the public.
Exactly, and we know this isn't just about law, it's about access, fairness, representation, and most importantly, trust. So stay tuned, because this conversation promises to be both enlightening and challenging. We'll also be taking your comment and thoughts as the discussion unfolds.
And of course, we won't be missing out on the newspaper headlines. We'll be flipping through today's major stories, dissecting what's making the front pages, from politics to the economy, governance to grassroots voices, and helping you make sense of it all.
Then later on the show, we'll go global and local on Trend Watch, from social shift in Nigeria to global movement that are reshaping the way we live and think. We'll be exploring what's trending, what's inspiring, and what's shaping the conversation beyond the headlines.
So whether you are watching from Ibadan, Lagos, Abuja, or anywhere across the nation, or even abroad, welcome once again to Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television. It's going to be a packed, thoughtful, and informative morning.
Exactly. Take a deep breath, Nigeria. It's a new day, a new week, and the conversation begins now. Don't go anywhere. We are just getting started.
Absolutely right. Good morning to you.
Good morning,
It's
Samson.
a brand new week, and today is Monday. You look amazing.
Of course, you look good yourself.
Good to have you back in the studio.
Same
At least
here.
after the weekend break.
I do hope you enjoyed your weekend.
Yeah, I had a blast. I must put it that way. You
Of
know,
course,
enough
of course.
rest, enough time to prepare for the new week, and unwind.
All
Stuff
right.
like that.
That's good. So what are we looking at this morning?
Yeah, we are looking at the welfareism of medical doctors in Nigeria.
Okay.
You know, it's actually disheartening to know that some doctors earn less than $300 in a month in Nigeria. I think that should be one of the reasons we see Nigerian doctors actually jumping ship, moving out of the country and more en masse, trying to look for better opportunities, trying to, better their skills in some countries. Because you see an average Nigerian doctor trained in Nigeria, when they get to other countries, especially in Europe and America, they tend to undergo different courses just because they want to practice in those countries. Yeah. I mean, if Nigeria has some of the best doctors in the world, I don't think they should go through that. But because they want to earn more, they want to be able to make ends meet, they tend to subject themselves to this re-evaluation of their skills outside the country.
Exactly. I think you're very spot on, because apart from the fact that they go there to write exams, I think some of them even write exams when they're still in Nigeria, so they can actually prepare that way when they get there. So I feel like recently the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, they issued out a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government, talking about, their poor remuneration, insecurity. And then I think that aligns with the fact that recently the federal government intends to export Nigerian doctors to St. Lucia to go and serve there. And what is very, sad about this whole thing is the fact that they are going to be paid about, 300% increase compared to what they are currently earning in Nigeria, if not more. So will some doctors take that offer? Yes, because why? The pay is good, but then it will affect us.
Some, most would want to take that.
We will take it. And another issue is the fact that, currently WHO standard, we have, is supposed to be 1 doctor to 600 patients. But where we are currently going through is about 1 doctor to about 5,000 patients.
That's a lot.
People will even tell you, try not to fall sick, because why? We are short of doctors in Nigeria.
And some doctors are busy on social media making content. So it tells you that,
TikTok.
It tells you how bad the system is right now.
Yes.
And to also know that compared to Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, even Dubai, medical doctors get, more attention. They get, you can imagine you being a medical doctor. Probably you have an area of specification, specialization, and you are in an hospital where you don't even have the equipment to practice. So what will you be doing there?
It's sad.
So it's a waste of, personnel in that particular field. But then, when there are no further opportunities, when you can't even get what you need from, most of them actually work with, government-owned hospitals, and you see them also stepping out to have their own private clinics.
Yes.
So it tells you that if they are, empowered in one way or the other, get the necessary equipment, they will be busy attending to patients in their, designated hospitals, and then they won't have a reason to actually step out and have their private clinics. But then even if they do, there should be ways where doctors are compensated for the input they have in the society. These are people who save lives, and if they are doing that, their lives should also be saved too, because they are putting their lives on the line. Exactly. They have emergency calls, sometimes they don't sleep at home, and if you are doing all that to your family, you are leaving them in the cold at night just to attend to some patients, you should be able to compensate for that with extra income. But then it seems like the case is not so in Nigeria as we speak, and I feel the government has a lot to do to make sure that medical personnel in Nigeria, we don't have brain drain in the area of medical department.
It's actually very sad, because I recall in 2023 the federal government issued out a bill to actually mandate it for doctors. Once you are done with school, you are supposed to work 5 years in the country before you japa. But I think they kicked against that, because really a lot of these students, I have some of my friends, once they are done with their induction and all, it's like their bags are already at the airport. They are prepared to leave. Why? Because the condition here is not too conducive. Recently, a guy or a man, if you like, his name is Oluwaseyi. He works as a doctor in the United States. He won 8 residential awards, all the residential awards. Someone like that is a good inspiration to young doctors who are even still in school. Once I'm done, I'm leaving. Why? Look at Oluwaseyi. If you can do it, I can also do it.
I think, Nigerian doctors, they are absolutely, you can't, you have to give them their flowers. They are one of the best in the world.
Exactly.
You will find Nigerian doctors there. I don't want to say they are the best in the world, but then, really, when you get to the best hospitals around the world, you always find a Nigerian physician there. So it tells you how intelligent these people are. So if you actually graduate as a medical student in Nigeria, it tells you wherever you find yourself, you are definitely going to do exploits. Now, the point is, in Nigeria is probably one of the countries where, to study medicine is cheap. If you compare to other countries around the world, it's more expensive there than. So even if the government wants to say, oh, we have subsidized education here for you, we have to keep you here for a certain period of time, you still cannot keep people against their will. Yeah. So whether, as a Nigerian doctor, you might say you are not practicing and you want to travel, and when you get there, you decide to practice. So nobody is going to check you for that. So I think that is a flawed process, and I feel like that it was kicked against, it actually says a lot about how malicious that is going to be for people who have actually taken their time to go through school and then found it difficult to actually get a job, and after getting a job they are not being paid well and they have decided to leave, and someone says they cannot leave.
Exactly. So, and if you notice, most of these doctors, they hardly stay unemployed for long because the job is there.
It's there.
But then
it's a ready-made market.
A lot of them will just say, let me just work for a few years, gather money, and then leave.
Let me just find money to actually pay for my travel,
my exams,
and of course exams, and then boom, out of the country. But then in the long run, we feel the government can actually do a lot to make sure that these people are not being treated like just any other, because there are some professions where the government really has to invest in them because they are assets, they are national assets to the country, and the medical field is one of them. And I feel the government can actually look into that and see how they can better their lives, so they can also be able to save more lives in the country.
How they can reduce insecurity, because I feel apart from the bandits and the terrorists, we also have insecurity in the health sector. We should look around that.
All right, so that takes us away from this segment of the show this morning. We say a very big thank you for joining us on this show this morning. This is the first edition for the week. Of course, this is Monday. You can keep the conversation going by linking up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It is at Dominion Broadcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Watch us live. Drop your comments there at Dominion Broadcast. And on X, formerly Twitter, it is at Dominion Cast. You can also watch us live on our website, www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Let's step away a little bit and go to our news desk. And when we're back, the show continues. We told you we have a lot to unpack on this show this morning. Of course, we promise you that, and we are going to deliver. We'll be back after this time out.
Good morning. This is Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Oluwayemi Adelako. President Bola Tinubu has ordered the Nigerian Armed Forces and security agencies to decisively confront terrorists, bandits, insurgents, and separatist agitators threatening the nation's unity and peace. Delivering the president's message at the grand finale of the 2025 Nigerian Army Day celebration held at Murtala Square, Kaduna, Vice President Shatima declared that the military are the full backing of the presidency to act without fear or hesitation. Tinubu pledged unwavering federal support for the military, promising sustained investment in modern weaponry, intelligence, and manpower to ensure Nigeria's sovereignty and security are protected. The Oyo State Police Command has deployed personnel across the state ahead of the Founders' Day celebration of the new Black Movement of Africa Aye Confraternity, commonly known as the Black Axe Court. This was contained in a statement released by the State Police Public Relations Officer Adewale Oshifeso in Ibadan, the state capital, and made available to Dominion News. It stressed that the command has conducted multiple sensitization sessions with key stakeholders, including hoteliers, lounge owners, and operators of studio apartments as part of its proactive security measures. The PPRO warned them against making their facilities available for hosting gatherings associated with cult groups known for violent activities. Osifeso therefore called on parents, guidance, community leaders, and influential figures to collaborate with law enforcement in mitigating this risk. Government has officially issued land allocation letters to cashew merchants based at the ultra-modern business complex in Ogbomoso. The presentation was held at the office of the Commissioner for Investment, Trade, Cooperatives and Industry, Honorable Adeniyi Adebisi, Secretariat, Ibadan, Oyo State. This was disclosed in a statement by the Commissioner for Information, Prince Dr. Oyelade, and made available to newsmen. Adebisi at the event stated that the event marked the resolution of the prolonged land regularization process between the merchants and the government. Edo State Governor Senator Monday Okpebholo has approved a bursary of 1 billion naira for students of Edo State origin in tertiary institutions across the country. In a statement by the governor's chief press secretary, Fred Itwa, Okpebholo stated this during a town hall meeting with young people in Edo State. The approval of the bursary initiative by Governor Okpebholo is expected to be an annual program designed to ease the financial burden on students and their families. Itwa noted that eligibility for the bursary will be based on proper verification through the applicant's local government of origin to ensure that only genuine indigents of the state benefit from the scheme. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, has disclosed that 700 million naira was generated from the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center within 3 weeks of operation. Wike disclosed this during the official Thanksgiving service at St. James Anglican Church in Asokoro, Abuja, to mark the successful completion of projects commissioned by Tinubu. He lamented that the former operator of the facility was paying the federal government 50 million naira yearly. Two federal government agencies, the Galaxy Backbone and the Rural Electrification Agency, have signed a partnership to provide electricity and digital connectivity to schools, hospitals and other public institutions across the country. This was made known during a Memorandum of Understanding signing event in Abuja. This comes as the federal government agency said the initiative is expected to help unlock 25 billion naira in revenue annually associated with the lack of electricity and other infrastructural development in Nigeria. In sports, defending champions Nigeria and Togo are preparing to retain their titles at the 2025 International Table Tennis Africa Federation West Africa Regional Championships in Lagos from July 16th to 19th. The event will take place at the Molade Okoya Thomas Hall, located within the Teslim Balogun Stadium complex in Lagos. Nigeria, the region's most decorated team, will defend the women's team title it successfully retained in Lomé last year. Togo will tough a position from Nigeria and other countries, including Benin Republic, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast and X at Dominion Cast. That's the break news. I am Oluwayemi Adelakun. Say thank you for watching and good morning. All right, I welcome you back. This is Studio Break Live on Dominion Television, and this is where we take you through the major headlines across the dailies. Starting with the leadership, I have this headline that says, "I'm running for president, not VP." Obi declares. That headline, as these writers, says Tinubu government lacks compassion. Your time has passed, Wike tells former Anambra governor. Let's take it from the major headline. The former presidential candidate of the Labour Party has come out to say he's not going to be running as the VP. He's running for the president. I think he's coming out to say that because of some speculations, from the public saying that he might actually run as the vice to Atiku in this new coalition. But he's coming out to say, no, I'm going to run as the president. And so that leaves us with, more speculations, because looking at the coalition, we have Atiku Abubakar, who is interested in contesting. We have Rotimi Amaechi, as the former governor of Rivers State, and we also have Peter Obi. Those are the three people that we know. What about those that we are not quite sure whether they want to contest or not? So our answer, actually, Akimbo, we do not know what is going to happen. We don't know who is going to, pick up, the ticket as the flag bearer for this coalition. All right, moving on to the rider, it says Tinubu government lacks compassion, and also have this one that says your time has passed, Wike tells former Anambra governor. I think the Minister for FCT is coming out and say, you know what, you contested in 2023 and you did not win the election, so your time has passed. However, Nigerians do not see it like that, because people have shown their support, concerning this coalition, party, these people coming up to form the coalition. We cannot tell who is going to, be in the Aso Rock, come 2027. Is it going to be APC? Is it going to be this coalition that we have currently? Moving on to another headline, I have this one that says, Tinubu offers military to wipe out Nigeria's enemies. That headline asks this writer, Kukar fears greater insecurity. Speaking about insecurity, a lot of persons have come out to say that what if this IGP and this police people, the security personnel, would not have arrested anyone if the president did not come out to say, you know what, why is it that you have not arrested even one person? Looking at the Benue killings, the Plateau killings, and of course, these terrorists and bandits doing a lot across the nation. The president came out to say that, you know what, whatever it will take you to wipe out this terrorist and bandit in the country, I'm giving you that order, the full authorization to carry out your activities so that Nigeria can be a peaceful place to live. Moving on to another headline on the leadership paper, I have this one that says JAMB releases 11,000 mop-up candidate results. The result is out now, so in case you have not checked, this is the best time to check your result online. Moving on to the Nigerian Tribune, I have this one that says, I am going to contest for president in 2027. That's coming from Obi. And that headline as these writers, wants the North to trust him, dismisses VP slot deal with Atiku, justifies romance with ADC. All right, you're still talking about the fact that, Peter Obi is saying, you know what, I am going to contest for the election. However, we are not quite sure, the party, whether it's going to be this coalition or his party, Labour Party, because recently a lot of persons are asking, Mr. Peter Obi, is it that you have left Labour Party for the coalition totally, or you are still a part of Labour Party? And then I think he clarified that over the weekend that, you know what, I am still a member of the Labour Party, and of course I'm still a member of this coalition. We do not know whether he's going to contest under the coalition or under the Labour Party. However, we are going to confirm that in the next few months or few weeks, as the case may be. Still on Nigerian Tribune, I have this one that says, we are yet to receive citizen of judgment on Natasha. That's coming from Senate. Kogi lawmaker vows to resume tomorrow. And there's a lot of controversies about this whole thing. She's been lifted, the suspension has been lifted, she can resume, but people are still talking about this whole Natasha case. However, we look forward to what will transpire in the next few days, if she's going to resume tomorrow or not. Moving on to another headline that says ADC plots to test coalition strength with Lagos local government poll. That headline asks this rider, holds talks with PDP and Labour Party candidate. I mean, looking at it, it appears that there's a bit of a relationship, between this coalition, the Labour Party and the PDP, regardless of the fact that some PDP members are coming out to say, you know what, those people that left our party to that coalition party betrayed us. However, we have seen people, support, members of this coalition, even from the PDP and the Labour Party. And this headline is saying ADC plot to test coalition strength with Lagos local government poll. They want to test their capacity, whether they're actually ready for 2027. Because a lot of stakeholders in the APC have come out to say, you know what, these people are still joking, when it comes to 2027 election. Because if they are really ready, they are supposed to, do less of talking and actually, put in the work, get party people to stay across the country and then, move forward with that. However, we do not know, how this is going to turn out. However, we expect that, things go free and fair, and they are able to test their capacity in this local government poll. Moving on to another headline on Nigerian Tribune, I have this one that says, again, Wike berates coalition leaders, accuses them of seeking power for personal interest. And I think this is the concern of not just members of the opposition party, not just, Wike, but also members of the public. Are these people coming out, just so they can unseat APC for their own personal gains, or is more of a concern for Nigerians? And Nigerians want to be very clear on that, because, looking at, the people in this coalition, they've all served, in one capacity or the other, some for 8 years, some for 4 years. Look at the likes of Atiku, look at the likes of Rotimi Amechi, a former governor, former minister. Look at Rauf Aregbesola, former minister of interior, it was also a governor. Look at these people. David Mark was also the former, Senate president. They've all served in one capacity or the other. So people want to know, not just the opposition party, not just Wike, even Nigerians, are you coming to take over power for your own personal gains, or really do you want to better the life of Nigerians? That's a question that, the coalition people need to answer in the coming weeks and months, because that will determine whether they are going to unseat APC come 2027. Moving on to another headline this morning, I have this one that says, killings, Tinubu offers military to crush terrorists and bandits. I think we spoke about that, just recently. Now, the president has given his full authorization, to this military personnel, the police, and every single person, that, you have the power, you have the right to actually tackle this issue of banditry, these terrorists across the country. Do whatsoever it takes to make sure that you can actually curb their excesses and then reduce their activities, across the country. Moving on to the New Telegraph this morning, I have this headline that says, killings, Tinubu offers military to confront terrorists and bandits. That headline also has these riders, reaffirms commitment to armed forces welfare operational capacity. Lawyers seek scrapping of security votes, say not backed by law. I think we spoke about that already. I also have this headline that says, Poly lecturers threatening strike over salary delays. I think lecturers of the polytechnics are coming out to say that, our salaries are not being paid. We need to be paid. If not, we are going to go on strike. And then I'm seeing a rider here that says, say territory institution workers now beggars servicing debt. A lot of them have resorted to actually begging, not on the street, but maybe from their other colleagues that work in other sectors, and they have debt upon debt. It keeps increasing day by day. So the government should actually see to this matter. I also have another headline here that says, Wike, that's a kicker, opposition coalition out to rescue their stomachs, not Nigerians. And that headline asks this rider, Tinubu's sudden reforms driven by fear and panic. That's coming from ADC. So members of the coalition, I think yesterday I read a story that talks about the fact that they feel, the Tinubu-led government is putting out some of these policies because of the pressure that is coming from the coalition, because they're actually scared and they feel pressured because, the ADC might just come and unseat them. They want to look good in the eyes of the public. Really, is that the case? Because before now, we've seen some policies, being rolled out by the federal government. Talk about the tax reform bills that is expected to start early next year. But the ADC, the coalition members, are coming out to say, the federal government, the Tinubu-led government, are pressured. That's why they are coming out with some of those new policies to actually do what? To placate Nigerians. What do I mean by that? To make them feel at ease, to let them know that, we have your interests at heart. However, I do not know what is going to play out in the next few weeks in this country. Moving on to another headline, I have this one that says, Zulum debunks defection to ADC rumor, affirms loyalty to APC. But looking at this headline, I feel like in the next few weeks and next few months, we are still going to experience more defections from the Labour Party to the ADC, from PDP to APC, from PDP to the coalition, because recently the vice president that ran with the former presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023, that is, Datti, he came out recently to say that he's still a member of the Labour Party, though he's considering whether to join the coalition or not. So a lot of them have plans of joining. Maybe they are still considering some factors or not. So we are still going to see a wave of defection in the next few weeks and few months. So be sure whether maybe that politician that you like or that stakeholder that you like in that party might be moving to another party. Because I saw a tweet yesterday. The current governor of Osun State, Ademola Adeleke, said he has heard a lot of rumors that there might be chances, of him moving from the PDP to the APC. And then he came out to debunk that and then said that he's not moving from the PDP to the APC. He still remains a member of the PDP. Will that stand for long? Time will tell. All right, moving on to the final paper for this morning, which is this day. I have this headline that says 2027, that's the kicker. Presidency in panic mode, ADC coalition alleges. Is that true? The ruling government, the APC, are they actually pressured? Or are they talking about the fact that this coalition do not pay them no mind? They're actually, scheming from themselves. They are scheming for their own interests. But when you look at it, politics is a game of interest. If it benefits me, if it benefits you, then we can have a deal. So we are not really sure whether that statement is coming from real pressure or maybe they are really feeling the pressure. I'm talking about the APC now. Moving on to another headline this morning, I have this one that says Tinubu to military, we mustn't mortgage Nigeria's future to division and indifference. And a lot of things are happening. I've talked about the issue of insecurity because recently we still heard about some cases in some parts of the country. In Benue State recently, some women came out about, I think around last week, that they can no longer go to the farm. Because we know Benue for, production when it comes to, food items, the food basket of the nation. But if care is not taken, they might need to change that, that slogan. Because why? A lot of them can no longer go to the farm the way they used to do. And that is not subject to Benue State alone. Even in the southwest, a lot of farmers can no longer go to the farm to farm. Why? Because they are scared of being, killed, of being slaughtered. They are scared of being attacked. So the federal government, the Tinubu-led government has come out to say you have all it takes, you have what it takes, you have the full authorization to actually do what? Tackle these people. The last headline this morning, I have it on this day, and it's saying Dantata, Northern Governors Forum delegation, Atiku Zulum offers pay condolence visit to family in Kano. Recently, the man was buried, the uncle to Dangote, and then is a major stakeholder in the country. A lot of persons had good things to say about him. Of course, we wish the family well in these trying times. All right, this is how far we can go on the headlines this morning. However, we need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll do a bit of analysis on some of the top stories that we have this morning. Please stay with us. All right, I welcome you back. This is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. And of course, we are talking about the major headlines across the dailies. However, I have with me in the studio, Samson Balogun. Welcome back.
Well, it's good to be here to talk on major stories on the pages of the newspaper this morning.
Exactly. And let's look at this story, making waves on the dailies this morning. It's talking about, I'm going to contest for president in 2027. That's coming from Obi. And that headline asks these riders, wants the North to trust him, dismisses VP Law deal with Atiku, justifies romance with ADC. Peter Obi is coming out to say, you know what, I'm a part of Labour Party and I'm also a part of the coalition, and I'm not going to be vice to anyone, contrary to what some of you are thinking, because a lot of Nigerians have come out to say that, you know what, if you are going to contest as VP, you might not have our support. And then he's coming out to say, I'm going to contest as the president. Let's not forget the fact that, Atiku Abubakar has intentions of running. Recently, Rotimi Amici also mentioned the fact that if he's given the chance, he's going to run for one term. Will this not lead to another crisis in the ADC?
Well, we should not be talking about if it will lead to another crisis. We should be talking about the crisis that is already on their hands to contend with ahead of the election. Okay. Look, you cannot put people who have different egos. They are kings on their lanes, and then they have decided to come together. That is why people will always call them the Angry People's Party. The reason being that they are angry that the president probably did not compensate them for what they did during the last election, or probably they were undercompensated. In one way or the other, they are all angry, and they have come together to say, look, we want to actually say, oh, we want to run for election. We want to bring a group of people together, a group of political stakeholders in Nigeria, and then we want to, run against the president and probably kick him out of the office come 2027. Now, let's put this together. At one point or the other, Senator David Mark has, shown interest to be president of the Federal Republic. I think that was 2019. He wanted to be president in the PDP. He did not get the ticket. Now, Rotimi Amici ran, side by side with, the sitting president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, during the last election. That was 2023. He wanted to be president. He did not get the ticket. Now, Peter Obi was a presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general election, gathered, so much vote, I think around 10 million votes at the time, and eventually did not get the ticket. So let's say Atiku Abubakar was vice president for 8 years, for a long time. Even is now becoming, a regular name on the ballot. He's always.
Don't you think he's always going to come down?
No, I'm still coming to that. He's always going to come out to say, look, I want to be president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is fine. Everyone has a right. Even Yemi can come out tomorrow and say, I want to be president. As long as you have the political weight and you have the financial capacity to run for president, you can always do that. So as a Nigerian, you are qualified. So I'm just telling you that in case you want to be president, you can. Now, put all these people together. Rauf Aregbesola has always been a crony of the president. He was, he was in Lagos State. He was commissioner. He was governor in Osun State for 8 years. He was minister of interior at a point for, I think, under President Muhammadu Buhari for a number of years. And then when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board, I think there was a falling apart, and then decided to be on his own and then joined the coalition. So these are people at one point or the other, they have been at loggerheads with the president. They have had issues with him, and then some of them, it really did not end well, and they feel, oh, at this point, I don't think I can have anything to do with you again. I want to be here. So they have all come together to say, look, let's start a new political party. The reason you will know, let me now give you an instance. The reason you will know that there will always be a problem in the coalition is because Malam Nasir El-Rufai said something. He's even one of the aggrieved ones, because he was meant to be a minister in this administration, but he was not screened at the floor of the house, or he was screened out, let me put it that way, because of security issues. He had issues on the floor of the house, and the DSS released a report about him as regards what's going on in the insecurity sector in the country. So let's put that aside. So he also has an issue. So I've counted about 6 or 7 of them who had an issue which was a public of public awareness. Everyone knows they had issues. Now put that aside. Peter Obi is saying, look, I want to serve one term. Rotimi Amici says, I want to serve one term. Atiku Abubakar says, look, don't worry, I want to serve one term. When I come on board, I'll hand over to someone from the south. If the federal character, that we have always followed in Nigeria since, the new republic started, is to be followed, no presidential candidate will come from the north. it will still be from the south because President Tinubu is serving 4 years as we speak. So
the
zoning platform. So it means that there is another 4 years left to be served from the south, regardless of if it is southwest, southeast, or south-south. So there has to be a candidate who is going to run for president.
Is that
from the
entrenched in our constitution?
It is not.
Okay.
But for the sake of national unity, all these are being done. Take, for example, there is something that will happen in Oyo State too very soon, because Ibadan has always, been, at the forefront of being governor of the state, and then the Okeoguns are saying, look, it is our turn. At least we are not pushovers. We have the numbers in Okeogun.
But before you
the
continue,
Balapas are also saying this. So
okay, Goodluck Jonathan served one term.
He served one term, but he wanted to serve the second time. He was kicked out of the office. He was voted out.
But did that cause disunity amongst Nigerians?
No. The reason that did not happen is because people thought, by calculation, some political juggernauts in the country feel he has served 2 terms, judging by the fact that he finished his, August tenure, which was Yar'Adua then before he passed away. So he was the one that completed that tenure. So he came on board and ran for president, won for another 4 years. So by calculation, he was president for 2 different tenures. So they thought, oh, why would you come for the third one? So that aside, let's now put that aside. See, the problem now is not the people. It's not the people of Nigeria. The problem is the political, gladiators coming together to say, oh, we want to form, a coalition against the president. Are they doing this for the people? The question is no. Because when you look at them, they're okay. About 4 of them are now coming out to say, I want to be president. I want to be president. So it's just, they are playing on the intelligence of the people. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is at one point or the other, every one of them, they have served in one capacity or the other. What did they do differently at the time? Ask that question. So if Rauf Aregbesola was governor, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola was governor of Osun State for 8 good years, and he was tagged Baba Afusa because he was paying half salary to, government workers in that state. It tells you a lot about what he's bringing to the table. 2, if Rotimi Amechi was governor for 8 years, he was a speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, and he was minister under President Muhammadu Buhari at the time. So he's been in government for over 30 years. So tell me what he did differently while he was in government. So if they were there and they had, a smooth sail, they implemented policies that would actually help this current administration to transition Nigeria into the country of our dreams, I think the current president will not be having the issues he's having. I'm not saying he's the best president in the history of Nigeria, but Nigeria has always been like this. There has always been insecurity in the country. It is this same country that we have bombings in Abuja, in Yanya, and other places. It is still, we have not had that since he came on board now. At least we have not had bombings as close as Abuja. So it tells you that most people, especially the political gladiators, in order to actually make this administration look so bad to the people that they will feel, oh, he's doing so bad, we want a change, we want that, just like the APC did to the PDP then. They will always say something. And one of the poorest areas that this administration has performed is that they do not have good publicity. They do not pass the message across the people the right way. I mean, there are sometimes you learn about some policies and you'll be like, why is this not on the papers? Why is this not, in the public space, in the public domain for people to actually know that this is happening? Take, for example, when the COVID-19 came on board, that was 2020. This administration, through a microfinance bank owned by the federal government, brought about a policy for households and individuals who are having tough times during COVID to actually have access to loans. Some people took that loan, but you now imagine that people who actually needed the loan did not know that it was actually there. So it shows that there is a problem with communication, especially with the APC. There is a problem, there is a communication gap between the APC as a political party and, of course, while they are in the office, and to the people. So there is a gap. Or if they are able to feel that, for sure that so many things that this current coalition are saying, people will not believe them that much because they were there. They started this journey together. So why are you out now saying, oh, they are doing badly? At least you are a member. Most of them are founding fathers of the APC, of the ACN, then down to APC. So it tells you a lot about the current situation. So I, for one, will not believe what they are saying, because I know that it is not for the people, it's in their own interest.
Okay, speaking on that, if we rule out this coalition people, because why? They've served in one capacity or the other in government, and so they do not deserve maybe to run for presidency or even win the election. Would that not leave us with APC as the only, because the coalition are trying to stand as an opposition to the ruling government, because we have complained over the years that you see these opposition parties, they are not doing what they're supposed to do. The Labour Party is going through leadership crisis, the PDP also going through leadership crisis, even the likes of NNPP, SDP, they're also going through one thing or the other. But these people have come out to say, you know what, let's leave aside the cracks in these opposition parties. Let's come together and then form something that can actually, tackle this government, come 2027. But if the masses, if the Nigerians are saying, you know what, you guys are really not different from the ruling government, would that not leave, Nigerians with APC come 2027? Because, what other choice do people have to say, okay, I want to come out to vote 2027?
There's always a choice. And when you, in the political landscape, the Nigerian political landscape, if you are going to have a choice, it's not an instant thing. It's a process. Take, for example, politics is so expensive in Nigeria that, before you can actually decide to run for, to be a councillor, you must have some millions in your account. That it is as bad as that. Because people think, they already know, it's in their mindset, it's in their head that the moment they have voted for you and you are in power, you are never coming back to them until you need them next time. So when you come, they put a bill on you. Oh, if you cannot do this, we are not giving you the ticket in the political party. So if you cannot pay us so amount of money, we will not give you our vote. So that is a problem. If you can make politics less attractive, take for example, most of these politicians you are seeing now, they started from somewhere. They have been able to suck the country dry to an extent that they are financially capable of doing anything. If a CBN governor decided to be a president, that's a lot. So it tells you of how much of a problem we have on our hands in the country. But that is not even a problem. Everyone can have ambitions. But in a country where politics is this expensive, do you know how many billions goes into a presidential election? And when you say committee of friends, they have come to actually contribute money for you for the electioneering period campaigns, and of course, funds that goes into the election. They are not doing it for free. They are doing it because when you get there, you are going to do their bidding. At one point or the other, they are going to need something from you, and you cannot say no because they sponsored you. And for some who are actually financially buoyant enough to actually go there themselves, let's put this, on the table. Why would you spend billions of naira to run for office because you like the people? In Nigeria, it's not possible. Nigerians are always, they are the business-oriented type. Oh, if I spend so amount of money, I must gain so amount of money in return. So if they are paying people off for their votes, it tells you what they are going to do when they get to the office. And that's why most Nigerians don't even care about the election anymore. That's why we have voter apathy during, the election. The last election, that was 2023, I was out there covering the election, and I saw Nigerian youth who I think at least about out of the 10, or let me say out of 10, about 3 or 4 of them will have voters card, presumably. They are on the street playing football. They are not even concerned about the future of the country. They are not concerned about the future of their unborn children.
And things are not as bad as it is now. Back then, I think dollar was still around, let's say, 500 plus, not like what we have now. So if they are not interested in 2023, what makes us think they'll be interested in 2027?
They should be, because if the narrative says Nigeria has gone so bad since that time, I think it is time that an average Nigerian, sits down and then decide to actually, preserve the future for, for their children, for their unborn children, for, the younger ones who are not even, old enough to actually put their thumb on the paper and then say, we want to vote. So the idea is that going forward, Nigeria is a country that is blessed with human resources, blessed with natural resources, and I feel that is what the leaders have actually been able to spot. So what they do is that they actually empower few, and then politicize the rest, weaponize poverty, so that when they come to you, once they dangle, carrot in front of you, you are always running after them. Say, okay, the little you want to give us now, just give it to us. So we can always get past that as a country. How do we do that? I mentioned earlier that it's going to be a process. Take, for example, we have so many political parties in the country. It's not like we have just two. We have about 3, 4, 5, 6, even as much as, I think the last time I checked, should be about 60-something political parties. I'll still check. But
new ones are even registering. I read the reports.
Even the current ADC, Malam Nasir El-Rufai mentioned something that people are not saying. He foresaw the potential crisis that will come in the ADC. He said if there's a crisis in the ADC, they are going to register a political party by the side. So they are going to migrate. There is a chance they will migrate again from ADC to another political party. It tells you, even when the party has not started, there's a crack.
If you ask me, I think there is more to this coalition than ADC. I think there's still some things that they are not telling the public yet. Maybe in the next few months, they will just come up with another stunt. Permit me to use the word stunt, because I feel they still have some things hidden. Because why? They want to take the ruling government, by surprise, by not revealing all their plans currently. That's what I feel.
You see, when you juxtapose what the current president did in Lagos State with what he's doing now, you would understand the fact that he knows before you make decisions, especially in the political arena. This is a man who knows how to actually plan things. He at a point during the primaries, he was almost certain that he was not going to get the ticket. But he made a statement. He said, whether you like it or not, Emilio come. And I know exactly what to do to get it. I'm not trying to praise, his political masterclass. I'm just trying to say that this is a political genius. So while you are gathering ex-political office holders to say, oh, let's form a coalition, he's busy gathering sitting governors. He's busy gathering their godfathers. Take, for example, what happened in Delta State. He got Governor Sheriff, and of course, his godfather also followed him into the political party. In Akwa Ibom State, Governor Umoheno is now in the APC, and a lot of people also followed him into the APC. It tells you that he's harvesting, sitting powers in each state. People who also have a lot at stake. They want to contest for the next election or probably want to anoint a candidate. So they know there's a lot at stake. And those are the people that are going to work with him. Not people who are going to relax and say, well, I have nothing to lose, and then whatever happens in the election, that's it. But then, all in all, I feel there's a lot that's still going to unfold before the election. All
right, thank you so much. I think we can leave it at that. It's best to leave it at that, because just like you said, we still have quite a number of things to unfold in the coming weeks and months. Okay, thank you for being a part of the segment. The next one is Big Story. Please stay with us. My name is Oluwayemi Adelakun.
Good morning and welcome to the big story on Daybreak Live, right here on Dominion Television. Today we turn the spotlight on one of the most fundamental pillars of our democracy, the Nigerian Constitution, and the growing conversations around its review and reform. With economic pressures biting harder and governance concerns, eyebrows across regions, the call for constitutional dialogue is gaining traction again. But what does a review mean for the everyday Nigerian? Is this just another political ritual or a genuine attempt to bridge the gap between government and the governed? I am Samson Balogun. Welcome once again. Nigeria's constitution has long been a subject of debate, criticized for its military roots and a perceived detachment from the lived realities of ordinary citizens. As discussions around constitutional review surfaces, key questions emerge. Is this the right time for constitutional reform, given the numerous economic and security challenges facing the country as we speak? Will the process be inclusive, reflecting the voices of real Nigerians, or will it remain an elite conversation in high offices? And critically, will any proposed changes truly favor the average citizen or merely protect political interests? Today, we dissect the essence of constitutional review, its urgency, and what's really at stake for Nigerians everywhere. Our guest, Oba Adeoye from Lagos, will help us unpack the possibilities, the pitfalls, and the pathway to a more people-centered governance structure. Good morning, this is The Big Story. Samson Balogun is my name, and I have online, joining me from Lagos State this morning via Zoom, is Oba Adeoye. Oba Adeoye, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Samson. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. You look amazing. Good morning to you once again. Okay, there's the growing concerns by the people talking about a constitutional review. Don't forget that people still say that this is not our constitution, but a borrowed constitution that has been amended so many times. And many a times people say it is only amended to suit the elite in the society. Now, let me ask you this. What exactly is the goal of this proposed constitutional review? Is it a total overhaul or just a minor amendment?
Okay, Samson, thank you so much for having me on the program this morning. Let us try to put this in proper context, just like you have rightly, established. Constitution is meant to be a guide for the people of Nigeria and the people of the century. They say there are no law, there are no things. Possession. That's why we need. I am not a constitutional lawyer. I am journalist, so I'll be looking at the perspective of average Nigerian. Okay, now it will important to note this is the 5th time that constitutional review we attempted, and each of this time, huge amount of money, huge amount spent from public coffers. You see politicians, the lawmakers particularly, going around the country, to liaise with the people, to listen to the people, what they think, and take their input with the court perspective and go back, and consult with the state houses of assembly, go back to the National Assembly and make the final input in the constitution. But the question was, these 5 times the constitution has been, amended of what impact, what result, what had been done of amendment 5 19. That's the question. And then we need to compare, what that has brought up. That's compared to it's a huge amount went into such each of these 5 things. Don't get me wrong, is a prominent feature of any democratic in the world, but the constitution has an effect on the well-being of the Nigerian person. The answer is as obvious as the back. You know what I'm talking about. This last one, they told us they are going to touch on a lot of things going to touch on, I'm talking about the public hearing. They're going to touch on the electoral reforms. They are going to touch on federalism and resource control, judicial reforms, human rights, social justice, inclusive governance, and so on. Okay, but at the end of the day, you listen to chairman of that's Senator Okoyemi Bamidele from. He said a lot of things were brought into public hearing across the country. One of them, the most important among all things that were able the top across the political bloc where public hearing took place. What we came to our the next biggest priority for this. It goes to tell you that even Nigerians are not properly educated to what to ask for people living them, what to do at every area. Many people are to mere ethnic identity. To want, okay, this we must have a state. I am from Ibadan. I'm not local government. Ibadan people will come there and because Ibadan state. Okay, we will come, give up. Ibadan will come, give us Ibadan state. We tend to abuse the claim of separation to ethnic identity, which because it is the essence of it's so distinct. People spend that much energy why are paying attention to more important things that because a touch here. According to one proposal where we see duration. Can you imagine that almost times 2 of the existing that we have in if you have something that the only region requires an additional at this point in time for everything and for balance is the south region. If we check the map, check the we realize that only south that has a total of 5 states. Every other people have a total of 6 states. Why would the not also have like the rest of that region? So I say, why would the majority to say that again? That equity should be applied in. I think their own call, plan of situation for me, my own view is fine. But for other regions, all manner of funny, don't look at it from the system of ethnic identity, then it shows that the problem in this policy. People really do not understand the need at every area. And even from this, for things that there are other more important social justice. Nobody thinks about that. Or policing security. Look at the security situation. You realize that it is really getting out of hand. It is getting out of hand and it is creating Nigerians in their homes with 2 eyes closed. We may say in the southwest here we have some relative peace, but I can tell you that it's closer to us than ever before. But it's not just that we got a report from Kwara State that some bandits invaded community and residents had to flee, for cover. So if it could happen to a place like Kwara State, which more or less is like a southwestern region, that people in the southwest should flee with their 2 eyes closed. These police should have taken the front border across public places. That's my opinion. That is wrong. But
okay.
if state correction to be secondary, to improve state policing. If you look at the people in government, while they were in the opposition, one of the major clamor that the people, repeatedly and constantly is subject to state police. They were, at every given opportunity, calling out the then federal government of the need to put state police in place, but they are too powerful.
Before we come back to the issue of state policing, Obadeoye, before we come back to the issue of state policing, now let me ask you this question. Let's talk about timing. At this point, so many Nigerians expected that the people in power should be more focused on some other things, especially with hardship which is in the country. The dollar rate is at around 1,600 naira. There is insecurity in almost every part of the country as we speak. It happened somewhere as close as Kwara State recently, and we have had kidnappings, bombings in some places. Now, these are other pressing issues that the government should be looking at. Now, let's talk about timing. Why is it coming at a time when the election? Why is it coming at a time when the election is, around the corner? Why now? Don't forget, we have had the Orosai report, the National Confab. There has been attempts at the constitutional review, and every day on the floor of the House, if there's a sitting, there's something to talk about the Nigerian Constitution. So why must we invest another money into constitutional review? Don't forget what it cost Nigeria to actually go through the National Confab, which till today was not implemented. The Orosai report was not implemented. Why a new constitutional review now?
Yes, you already answered the question. Because, it's mentioned that anytime we have an election, anytime we are approaching season, politicians come up with a public hearing of the constitutional review, so-called constitutional review, are dumped into the dustbin. No concrete or measurable impact on the welfare of people. We want to tell you that the politicians think themselves more than that they were elected. Why must it come every time an election is it really about the people, or is it really about the politicians? Whose interest is this review? And that is one of those things that people, talking about ethics, talking about right education, national, the rest of them. That should have been the big question senators during the public that why are we review at this time that an election is around the corner about the 20 election. A lot of things like I told you were, ignore. We made up too much of the world. We are talking about station, we are talking about things that we do not have direct effect on the life of average Nigerian out there. What to be on the people right now, like I mentioned earlier, is insecurity. Because where you don't have security, it is impossible for people to try to solve that problem. People should be at the front corner. You two have the economy. They are at the front corner. The economy is in doldrums as we speak. We cannot keep deceiving ourselves. How much was a bag of rice in 2015? How much is a bag of rice today? What is the exchange rate today? Those are the questions, those are the things that we put on the table. And those are the measuring factor or measuring that we should start thinking about. And the leaders, should be asking the right question on behalf of the people that they are representing. What about the response? How independent is our judiciary? What that we're talking about in the Constitution? What about moving out from items from the to the concurrent list? Those are the things we should be talking about, and not state police and not what have you. And the most painful part is that at the end of the day, we end up spending millions or billions of naira for this exercise, and then from the public coffers, money that should ordinarily, be expended with the welfare of the people, and at the end of the day, be an exercise in futility.
Okay, now let me.
And then, if you ask me,
Let me ask you this.
something?
Let me ask you this very quickly, and then you combine that with what you wanted to say. Do you think Nigerians trust the current political actors to actually deliver, holistic and honest constitutional review that will favor the citizens more than the elites? Did you get that?
Okay, if you check the Vanguard newspaper edition of the survey that was conducted, and in front of that survey, it says Nigerians do not trust the Tinubu administration and Nigerian big debt on that frontally directly answers your question. Nigerians really have lost the government to deliver, their dividends for them. We are not in 1993. We are not in 2020. We are in 2025. The exposure, the understanding, the awareness among the people now is bigger than what we had in those years that I mentioned. So the people are more active, the people are more alive, and the people really know. It's difficult because you may have to bring in from the book to deceive, to tell people that you are serving them. The indices, they are on book. People can see a sitting minister writing voice, calling the block of the people that where he got the book to back it. Because it's only in Nigeria that you can do something. That the sitting minister, of the people, in fact, brand new Rolls Royce, at a time the country is going to difficult. In other times, by today, it will have become a common belief. But it's only in Nigeria that you have thought that people are serving the society, who are serving the people, they are the people they are serving, and they are not coming. And they are whatever the president himself, up to now, hold on, where they got the money to buy the next platform. These are the issues on the table. You are telling us that you are serving what capacity of serving. And people better off today than what they were 3, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years ago. That is the first thing to be asking. But you're not comparing Saturday or Sunday. The situation of Nigeria today, what Nigerians were prior to the question was accepted. Beyond propaganda, beyond life, beyond plan. Nigerians know the truth. Nigerians know what in Lagos you want to get an accommodation. Okay, you will be afraid of 1.5 million naira per annum. That is accommodation in Lagos. Of course, Lagos government is doing something to address the situation. But how many Nigerians earn 1.5 million naira per month? How many Nigerians earn such amount in the country of Nigeria that we have to pay such amount for rented accommodation in the police, like that goes to tell you the situation of the situation where Nigerians found compared to what was it. How much is the bag of cement? How much is the block? 9 inches, 6 inches. How much they sell rods? The 32 how much do they cost? How much did they cost? These are the reasons tell you that Nigerians are and what they were in. That does not mean to say that the government is not making any effort. No. The government is making efforts to get more serious and put more attention to those efforts than this equality of people wanting wealth, even wanting acting well, you know, at the expense of Nigeria. Don't mind what happened to Nigeria. And of course, art rate to that who should know who should lead by example. We are going through a season. Therefore, I have to talk down on my luxury. It is the same people that are supposed to lead us right in front of us. It is so. It is so. And of course, going back to the question, why to review the constitution every time an election is in the offing, and then they end up spending a lot of money on the jamboree when we have other reports that are gathering dust on the shelf of the federal government. What has happened to the Orosanye report? When Tinubu came to power, he was telling us that he was going to implement the Orosanye report. Now we have come to realize that that was just a statement for the media. That was just a statement for the camera. They were not serious about the implementation of the Orosanye report. What about the National Confab report? It is there on the table, gathering dust. What have they done about the implementation of that confab? Do you know how much Nigeria, the federal government, spent on putting together that confab, that people went that they enjoyed luxury, they had a jamboree, enjoying the time together, save for Pastor Tunde Bakari and a couple of others who refused to any remuneration for that exercise. Billions of naira went into that jamboree. What is the result today? What effect has it had or has it taken on the life, on the the status of an average Nigerian? Almost zero. We keep talking about restructuring. We keep talking about all manners of things.
Let's take this.
We keep going in circles, and we start from this point. At the end of the day, we end up on that same point where we started our journey from. It shows that we are not serious. We are not Galatians. We need to be serious more than we are. Galatia. We are not the foolish Galatians.
Okay.
We are Nigerians. We need to be smarter. We have situations in our hands, and we need to address this situation to make the life of an average person better than what it was. That should be our concern, and not this jamboree that we are doing up and down. Let me ask you a big question. The 1999 Constitution, they keep saying a lot of things that are wrong with that Constitution. How much of that Constitution have you implemented? How much of that Constitution have you put to use? I'm not a constitutional lawyer, like I told you, but I meant to tell you, I have a copy of the Constitution. It is written in the English language, not in Latin, and not in Greek. So we understand what is written there. Okay. How much of that Constitution have we implemented? In that Constitution, the local government, in the first schedule of that Constitution, the local government administrations are given certain roles to play within, the present structure. Today, go to places like Lagos. Most of these responsibilities of the local government have been hijacked by the state government, almost rendering the local government useless and almost rendering them, almost putting them at their own mercy. You understand? And the governors now see themselves as superior to the local government chairman.
Obadoye, let me ask you this.
Sacking democratically elected local government chairman. These are the things we need to consider in the Constitution. How do we grant independence to our judiciary? Those are the things we need to look at. How do we ensure that the electoral umpire, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is truly independent in the true word, in the true sense of the word? These are the things we should be asking ourselves. But unfortunately, we have people who are much more concerned about state creation more than all of these more important things. It's saddening that we major too much on minors in this part of the world.
All right, Obadoye, let me ask you this question now, very quickly, because we have just a few more minutes before we go on this show, and I have a lot of questions to ask you. But let me take this first. What section of the Nigerian Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, as amended, which we are still using in Nigeria right now, what section of that Constitution do you think should be amended and reviewed? And how about implementation? How do you think those sections can be actually well implemented to serve the purpose it should ordinarily serve?
It's a pity I have my Constitution top behind me here. I will have, stood up to pick a copy of that Constitution to show you some part of it. But I don't want to do that. We are on live television. But let me try to, reference some part of the Constitution. I'm much more, particular about security, because when you don't have security of lives and property, people cannot thrive. The economy cannot thrive. You understand? We cannot move about in our regular, we can't have social life, we cannot have economic life where there is insecurity. So the number one issue for me is the centralization of the police. The decentralization of the police. It's time for the police to be decentralized. We have spent too much time pressing this thing. We have spent too much time in rehearsing madness. When are we going to enter market? We have spent too much time talking about state police. When are we going to start implementing state police? When are we going to start implementing it? When are we going to start, picking people who are responsible for the security of a community from within that community? Look at what happened to the people of Benue State. You think if somebody or if you think the policemen in that community are drawn from that community? Tell you what, I've forgotten the name now. If they are picked from that, you think they will ignore the call of the resident when they sent an SOS to them? When they know that they have their kinsmen being attacked, they will put things together and go to their rescue. People said they sent out SOS. They sent out this. Nobody came to their rescue until after the assailant had left. That was when the security men, brought their weapons, their guns, and what have you, to come and do what? So, if you pick people who are responsible for the security of that community,
okay,
come anywhere to come, and pounce on them and do as they wish without any repercussion. So for me, number one, we need to decentralize state police in that area. Number two is to ensure that local government operates the way they should operate. We need to review that part.
Devolution of power.
And include to that part that governors do not have power to usurp the powers of the local government administrations. Local governments are independent of the state government. They need to operate independently to that effect. Another one is that independent. Let us find a way of chairman that the president is not responsible for the appointment of the INEC chairman. Let us find a way of doing that. What about our legislature? They also need some review. We have over-bloated legislature. We need to review that. Despite that, we are talking about 31 new proposals for state creation. 31. If you have 31 new states, it means that we are going to have 3 new senators from each state. 3 times 31. That's how much senators are we going to be paying salary, to be feasting on us, going down and moving irrelevant motions and taking a ride on public funds. There are senators in that assembly who have not really contributed anything to the welfare of the people they represent. There are people in Nigerians who do not even know who their senators is. They don't know who represent them at the House of Assembly or at the House of Rep or at the Senate. You need to review all of those and make sure that you give more power to the people than the politicians. What we have at present, the politicians have too much powers above, more than the people that are serving them. People who employ you, the employees have more power than the employers. Is that not ridiculous? We need to look at that. We need to look at judicial. We need to consider that too. Who appoints the head of the judiciary? How do we appoint the head of the judiciary? We need to do that. In a country, was it not in Spain or so? They had an election to appoint. Of course, it may sound strange, to achieve independence of the judiciary. To also ensure that the judiciary is truly independent. What about human rights? What have we done about human rights? Police brutality and what have we done about that? We need to look at that in our constitution. What about resource control? What about resource control? Go to Ogoniland, go to the South, where we have the gold, that petrol. How much of return do they enjoy from the petrol? Got it from their area. To start talking about resource control. These are the issues that should be on the front burner. Okay. Not state creation and this jamboree.
Obadioye, now let's take a look at this. For every action and inaction, there are consequences. Now, basically, let's talk about if this constitutional review is not properly worked on, if it is not properly delivered, what are the social and political consequences that it has on an average Nigerian out there?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, that look, put Nigerians above every other thing in this exercise of constitutional review. Once we do that, and we ensure we implement it to the letter, then the conditions of an average Nigerian will improve from what it is right now. That is what I'm saying. If it is done properly, because where there are no laws, there are no sins. If the Constitution is strengthened enough, if the Constitution is empowered enough, then there are certain things that some people are doing in government today that they go scot-free, that they will never.
Are you there? Okay, looks like the network is a little bit bad. But then he was talking about the chances of social and political consequences if the constitutional review is not properly executed. Now, there are mechanisms which can be put in place for this. But then we say thank you to Obade Oye for joining us on the show this morning. There are so many things I still wish we were able to talk about before the network actually had an issue. But I do hope that we have a more robust conversation with Obade Oye and some other legal luminaries in the country as regards what implication this has on the Nigerian people. But as that is said, that is where we all leave it on the big story today. As the calls for constitutional review continue, one thing remains clear. A nation can only thrive when its foundation, its constitution, reflects the will and welfare of the people. Let the conversation not end in the corridors of power, but flow through communities, markets, schools, and streets across Nigeria, because only them can we bring the gap and bridge the gap between government and the governed to a close. Thank you for joining us. I am Samson Balogun, and this has been the big story on Daybreak Live. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and above all, stay engaged. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television. Let's go on a short break, and when we return, we'll take you through Trend Watch this morning. We'll be back after this time out. All right, we promised you that we have a lot to unpack on this show this morning, and I'm sure we have delivered so far. There's still more on this show. The show is still Daybreak Live, right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice where inspiration meets entertainment. Don't forget you can keep the conversation going. Drop your comments on all our socials, on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. It is at Dominion Broadcast. Even on LinkedIn, do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch us live. Drop your comment there. We'll definitely take them at Dominion Broadcast. And on X, formerly Twitter, it is at Dominion Cast. Also, you can watch us live on our website, www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Now, it is time to take you through the world of trends on social media. And Yemi Adilakun is still here. Oluwa Yemi Adilakun, as she would love to be called. He's still here in the studio. But then there is a lot to talk about this morning.
There's a lot to talk about this morning. I'm glad to be back here. And we have the first story. This is coming from
Father
Catholic
Kelvin
priest.
Hugo. Yeah.
Exactly. And then he says, today's Christians have more fear for the devil than they have for God. It is unfortunate that at the mention of the name devil, every knee in this our 21st century Christian bows. And to control today's Christian is simple. Tell them how demons are after them and watch them do your bidding.
You see, I think obviously he's right. You know, we have too many Nigerians, especially in the Christian world, who are actually more particular about miracles than, you know, the word of God itself. So it tells you that the only way you can bring them close is to tell them, oh, you have family problems, you have this, you have that, and then they will come close to you and then
Some
do whatever it is you have asked them to do. Even if you tell them to fast for 299 days in a year, they are going to do it because they feel like you are telling them the truth. Most Nigerians are always looking for problems before they find solutions. Whereas you can also get the you always get the solution even before the problems come. But they are always in search of, you know, problems. Once you tell them there's a challenge, then you get their attention. But then when you tell them, oh, you can do this before time, they are not listening to you. So it's a general thing. It's not just about religion alone. Talk about someone who, you know, you have a business idea, you know, he has the cash. Oh, you can invest in this business and it will give you so results. But then they will not listen to you because they feel, oh, you do not have enough capacity to actually advise them on what to do with their monies, and then they'll push you aside. Let them have issues with their current, with their business, and then they want to diversify and look for that. They will be looking for you. Oh, you told me about something the other time. Can we do that now? So it's just a norm that you find in, you know, every society, not just about Christendom. It's a usual thing. So people, they tend to have problems before they seek for solutions.
Okay, I think you're very spot on, because a lot of Christians, they love prophecy. When you can tell them about what's going to happen in the next 2 years, they want to be there. And I think one of the comments, you know, the person talked about the fact that when it comes to the fear of God, you know, why must we fear God? But I think the kind of fear that that person is talking about, this chief priest is talking about, is not the kind of fear that you have to be all jittery, you know, panic. But when it comes to fear of God, it depends on how we react to people, the kind of activities that we engage in. You will not do certain things because you have the fear of God, not the kind of fear whereby you have to be all jittery and say, God, I must not do this. No, God is not like that. There's a good, the good side of God is there, and of course, we are not saying God is bad, but of course we must fear God in certain instances, because there are some things you should not do as a believer. And going back to the issue of, you know, people who do not fear God, they like to hear the name devil, they bow at the name devil. Just like you said, I feel a lot of times people, you know, concentrate more on what, you know, on the attacks on the outside, that, you know, people are trying to attack them. Someone is trying to kill one of your kids. You see people, you know, they start to cry, they feel the pressure, and then a lot of people actually bank on this because they do. Nigerians are emotional.
Yeah, let's look at what he actually said. He said today's Christians have more fear for the devil than God have for God himself. So it is unfortunate that at the mention of the name of the devil, every knee in this our 21st century Christian bows. So to control today's Christian is simple. Tell them how demons are after them and watch them do your bidding. Now, going to comment section, Oluwa Sheun 1290 says, are we supposed to fear God or love him? I think that's a critical question that really needs to be answered. Is it to be feared or loved? But then I feel it's still, you know, the same thing. Once you are in the Christendom, there's a, you know, an understanding that you must fear God, which is, you know, have the fear of God, put it that way, and then you must also love God. So If you
Yeah,
love
I
God,
think it's
you are
both
definitely going
sides.
to, yeah, so it's both. So,
But that fear is not the kind of fear, just like I said, that
Yeah.
you're all G3. No, God is not
that's
like
not
that.
it.
God is so loving. But you must fear him in the activities that you engage yourself in. And the second comment says, I don't blame them because their pastors is focused on making money than providing spiritual guidance. I think that's what the person is saying. That's coming from Rennie Spear, just like you have mentioned. A lot of persons, are so, because there's a saying that says, you can actually, worship God. You can have a personal communication with God. You don't have to be outside. You don't have to be in church. But then we must not forsake the gathering of the brethren. I mean, Christians will always say that because you must know God for yourself. There must be a personal relationship with God so that you can understand some things. It's not all the time that you run to your pastors or your prophet and say, I had this, I had this, I had that. So there's some certain things that you can actually do by yourselves when it comes to God.
And then on to the next one. This morning, a broadcaster is in the news, says, I challenge all the Nigerian politicians to show us their letter to reject government perks. Challenge begins. I mean, it doesn't really happen in Nigeria where you are offered chairman of a board, juicy political appointment, and you are like, no, look, I can't work with this administration, so I'm sorry, I have to reject this offer. I don't think that happens that much in Nigeria.
And of course, I think he coming out to say that Nigerian politicians should do this. I think a lot of them will not actually do this, because just recently I watched an interview where Wike was talking about the fact that I think Ruti Miamichi did the interview first, and he came out to say someone gave him a Rolls Royce, and then he accepted it, but he's not really using the Rolls Royce. And the Wike came to debunk the fact that that Rolls Royce was not actually given to him by maybe an outsider or maybe a friend. It was given to him by a contractor in the state. And then it just boils out to the fact that these politicians, they have access to luxury items, so a lot of them will come out to say they have their own money even before they ventured into politics, so they don't really have need of, maybe you want to give me plot of land, or you want to give me this or that. Recently there's a case with Wike's son. I don't know if you heard about the story,
the allocation of land in the FCT.
Exactly. And he came out to say that should his children not have access to lands in the state because he's a minister? Are they Ghanaians?
I mean,
he said that
they are Nigerians actually. So if
Exactly.
if these properties are gotten from the proper channel, probably it was procured with their money, I think there's no problem with that. But if it is awarded to them by the government, I mean, on what basis? That's the question we'll be asking.
Exactly. So I don't know. Let's take a few comments.
Okay, there's this letter where the government of Anambra State actually, I think, gave a property out to the managing director Mike Wafo. Anambra Housing State Housing Development Corporation gave a property out to Peter Obi while he was, I think when he was out of office, and eventually he actually turned down.
He said he doesn't feel because he's in power he should have access to freelance and then properties, because it's there to serve the people, not to actually enjoy the spoil of the state. Really, how many politicians can do that?
Yeah, well, I asked that question earlier that we don't get to see more that in Nigeria like that. In some countries where people would call the Senate climb, you see politicians resigning just because they are accused of one thing or the other, whether they did it or not. The moment they are accused of one thing or the other, you see them leaving their offices saying, look, I want to step aside for the proper investigation to be done. But in Nigeria, well, we do hope that one day we'll get there.
Exactly. A lot of places even ask if this document is doctored, because they didn't want to believe the fact that someone can actually do that.
I mean, but then, you see, as much as you want to feel, can this actually happen in a country like Nigeria? Well, it can happen. This is Nigeria, and of course, it is possible.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. That's the goal. That's what we want to
achieve. If you become a politician in the next few years, we expect you to do things
Absolutely,
like this.
I can do that. Of course, I can.
Okay.
As long as, it contradicts what I stand for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can always do that.
All right.
That takes us away from, this segment of the show. And unfortunately, the time is far spent on the show this morning. We have to go. And the show has been Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television. We say a very big thank you to everyone that has been a part of this show so far, to everyone that has dropped their comments in the comment section. We say thank you, and we do hope that you join us again tomorrow, as we have a lot to unpack, on this show for you tomorrow too. Don't forget, there are other shows lined up for you on Dominion Television, so keep it locked on this dial. As I always say, champions are not made in the stadium, they are made of something deep inside of them. And it is on that note we draw the curtains on today's edition of Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television. Samson Balogun is my